John Mason adjusted his uniform one last time before the airlock doors opened. The diplomatic officer of the EarthGov vessel, Handshake, took a deep breath. This moment would go down in history, humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Confederation. "Ready, sir?" Lieutenant Susan Beck stood beside him, her posture perfect but her eyes betraying nervousness. "As ready as anyone can be to meet 17 alien species at once," Mason said with a small smile. The airlock hissed open. Mason led his team of 5 onto Nexus 7, a massive space station that hung in neutral territory between Earth's solar system and Confederation space. The station's architecture was unlike anything humans had designed. Curves and angles that seemed to defy physics, materials that shimmered with an inner light. Waiting for them was a group of aliens. In the center stood a tall figure with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Admiral Zakathar of the Tyvari species wore an ornate uniform covered in what Mason guessed were medals or rank insignia. "Welcome to Nexus 7, the alien said through a translation device. His voice sounded flat and cold. "We expected your arrival sooner. Your primitive propulsion systems are quaint." Mason kept his diplomatic smile. "Thank you for hosting this historic meeting, Admiral. Earth is honored to begin peaceful relations with the Confederation." The Admiral made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Peaceful relations? You misunderstand your position. We are here to accept your surrender." The smile dropped from Mason's face. "I beg your pardon? Your species has been observed for decades. You occupy a strategic system with abundant resources. The Confederation, specifically the Tyvari Empire, claims this territory by right of superior civilization status." Mason exchanged worried glances with Beck. "Admiral, we came to discuss trade and cultural exchange, not surrender terms." "A common misunderstanding among primitive species," Zakathar said. 2 smaller aliens moved forward, carrying what looked like digital tablets. "These documents outline your tribute requirements. 30% of all mineral resources, 10% of biological materials, and specialized labor forces will be required." "This is outrageous," Mason said, his diplomatic training failing him. "Earth will never agree to these terms." The Admiral's upper set of arms crossed. "Then Earth will be taken by force. Your military capabilities are laughable compared to even our smallest battlecruisers." Mason tried to recover, to find some diplomatic way forward. "Perhaps we can discuss more reasonable—" "Guards," Zakathar interrupted. "Detain these humans. They will serve as leverage." 4 armed aliens surrounded Mason's team. One of the humans, a junior officer, reached for his sidearm and was immediately stunned by some kind of energy weapon. "Run!" Mason shouted to Beck, who was nearest to the exit. "Someone has to warn Earth." Beck hesitated, then dashed for the corridor as chaos erupted. Mason saw her escape before something hard struck the back of his head. When Mason woke, he was in a cell with 3 of his team members. One was missing, beyond Beck, who had escaped. "They're declaring war," said communications. Officer Paula Green, her face pale. "They're broadcasting it on all frequencies. The Confederation claims our entire solar system as Tyvari territory." Mason sat up, ignoring his pounding head. "How long was I out?" "About 6 hours," replied Security Officer Alan Rodriguez. "They've already dispatched messenger ships to their fleet. They're saying we have 1 Earth month to surrender or face annihilation." Mason closed his eyes. Humanity had barely established colonies on Mars and the Moon. Their space fleet consisted mostly of science vessels and a few military ships designed for protecting Earth satellites. They stood no chance against a coalition of 17 spacefaring civilizations. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Susan Beck piloted her as 6 months had passed since the failed first contact. Earth had transformed in that time. Factories ran day and night. Civilian ships were fitted with weapons. Old military vessels were pulled from museums and made ready for battle again. Admiral Frank Donovan stood on the bridge of the Defiant, Earth's largest warship. It wasn't much compared to what they knew of Confederation vessels. The Defiant had once been a cargo hauler before being converted to military use. "Status report," Donovan said, his voice steady despite the weight. on his shoulders. "Sir, Confederation ships have broken through the Neptune defense line," reported his communications officer. "Jupiter outposts are calling for backup." Donovan nodded grimly. "How many ships did we lose?" 17 at Neptune. The rest are falling back to Jupiter, but they won't hold long." On a smaller ship near Jupiter, Lieutenant Commander Alice Wright watched her radar fill with enemy contacts. Her squadron of 12 fighters was all that stood between the massive Confederation fleet and the civilian transports evacuating Jupiter's moons. "Form up, Echo Squadron," she ordered through her helmet mic. "We need to buy those transports time. Aim for their sensor arrays, it's the only weak spot we've found." Wright's fighters darted between enormous alien vessels, their small size their only advantage. Bright energy beams sliced through space. 2 of her pilots disappeared in flashes of light. Then 3 more. "Keep moving," Wright shouted. "Don't let them get a lock." She fired her ship's missiles at a Confederation cruiser's sensor dome. Direct. Hit. The huge ship went blind, its weapons firing randomly. Wright's remaining fighters targeted 2 more ships the same way. "Civilian transports clear, Commander," came a voice over her radio. "Fall back to Mars," Wright ordered her 3 remaining pilots. As they turned to leave, a massive energy blast caught her wing. Her fighter spun out of control. "Go without me," she told her squadron as warning lights filled her cockpit. Wright aimed her damaged ship at the nearest Confederation vessel and hit her thrusters to full power. The explosion took out an enemy ship's engines. Back on Earth, President Laura Carpenter sat in an underground bunker beneath the White House. Military officers and scientists surrounded her. "The outer system defenses have fallen, General Andy," Nichols reported. "Mars is next. Our conventional forces can't stop them." Carpenter's face remained calm. "And Operation Black Forge?" A scientist stepped forward. Dr. Olivia Grant had dark circles under her eyes from months of non-stop work. "The Dreadnoughts are at 97% readiness, Madam President. We need 2 more weeks to fully power the dark matter reactors." "We might not have 2 weeks," Carpenter replied. "How soon can they be deployed if absolutely necessary?" "The primary systems are functional, but without full power to the shields." Grant trailed off. Carpenter turned to a screen showing the solar system map with red dots of Confederation ships moving steadily toward Earth. "Make them ready. I pray we won't need them before they're complete, but hope isn't a strategy." Meanwhile, in a massive underwater facility beneath the Mariana Trench, engineer Peter Collins crawled through a narrow maintenance tube. Around him, the largest ship ever built by human hands hummed with power. "Try it now," Collins called to his team through his radio. The lights dimmed momentarily as massive energy flowed through the circuits he had just repaired. "Shield grid is at 64% capacity," replied a technician. "That's 12% better than yesterday." Collins wiped sweat from his forehead. "Not good enough. These shields are all that will stand between Earth and those alien weapons. I want 80% by tomorrow." As Collins worked deep underwater, in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, 6 other massive ships waited in hidden docks carved into large asteroids. Workers scurried over their hulls, installing weapons and armor plating. At Mars, Admiral Donovan positioned his remaining ships for the coming battle. The Red Planet would be humanity's last defensive line before Earth itself. Intelligence reports from captured Confederation communications suggested they would attack within days. "We'll hold as long as we can," Donovan told his captains. "Every hour we give Earth is another hour they can prepare." None of them knew if it would be enough. Cape shuttle at maximum speed toward Earth. The small vessel had limited communication range, but she had to warn them. She had to tell them what was coming. As she pushed the engines beyond safety limits, Beck didn't know that back on Earth, in deep underwater facilities and hidden asteroid bases, something waited. Something that humans had been building in secret ever since they detected the first alien signals decades ago. Something that would change everything. The sky above Mars turned bright with explosions. Earth ships fought bravely against the much larger Confederation fleet. It wasn't enough. Colonel Richard Bell watched from the Mars Defense Command Center as another group of Earth ships vanished. From his screen, "We've lost the northern orbital sector," an officer reported, voice shaking. Enemy ships are landing troops near Olympus Colony. Bell slammed his fist on the console. Evacuate all civilians from that region. Move them to the underground shelters at Vale's base. On his main screen, he could see Admiral Donovan's Defiant taking heavy fire while protecting the escape path for a group of transport ships. Get me Donovan, Bell ordered. The Admiral's face appeared on screen, smoke filling the bridge behind him. We can't hold Mars, Colonel, Donovan said. You need to get your people out. We're evacuating now, Bell replied. But we have 20,000 colonists. We need time. Donovan nodded grimly. We'll give you time. Donovan out. The Defiant turned back toward the thickest part of the Confederation fleet, followed by the remains of Earth's Space Force. Bell watched with a tight throat as the brave ships engaged in what could only be a suicide mission. In Earth orbit, Peter Collins floated outside a satellite, making emergency upgrades. His hands worked quickly, installing new sensor packages, designed by Dr. Grant. How many more of these do we need to modify? Collins asked through his radio. 17, came Grant's tired voice from Earth below. The entire network needs to be compatible with the Dreadnoughts targeting systems. Collins looked past the satellite toward Mars, where flashes of light showed the ongoing battle. We're running out of time, Olivia. I know, she replied. President Carpenter is meeting with the Joint Chiefs now. They're discussing when to reveal our true defense. In the underground war room beneath Houston, Dr. Grant stood before a group of military leaders while President Carpenter joined by secure video link. The Confederation uses a predictable attack pattern, Grant explained, pointing to simulation data. We've analyzed every battle from Neptune to Mars. They always form this same three-tier formation, with command ships at the rear. Chief Strategist, William Huang stepped forward. If we can punch through their front line with enough firepower, we can target their command vessels directly. Without centralized control, their fleet becomes much less effective. President Carpenter's face showed no emotion on the screen. And this is why the Dreadnoughts might work, even at less than full capacity? Yes, Madam President, Grant said. They have the firepower we need to punch through, but we have to time this perfectly. If we reveal them too soon, the Confederation will adapt. Back at Mars, the battle had turned into a slaughter. Admiral Donovan's fleet was down to 1/3 its original size. The Defiant limped away from another exchange, its hull breached in multiple places. Report, Donovan ordered, blood running from a cut on his forehead. Shields at 12%, his second-in-command reported. Main weapons offline, but we've bought the evacuation ships another hour. Donovan nodded. That's something, at least. On Earth, panic spread as news of Mars's fall reached the public. In cities across the world, people looked to the sky, wondering when alien ships would appear. Military forces mobilized globally. Civilian shelters filled with frightened families. Confederation broadcasts began to override Earth communications. Your resistance is pointless. Your weapons cannot harm our ships. Surrender now and some of your people may be spared. President Carpenter appeared on all channels with a brief message. People of Earth, do not lose hope. This fight is not over. Humanity has not shown its full hand yet. In a secure bunker in Beijing, William Huang worked Earth's orbital defense. Platforms opened fire as the Confederation fleet entered range. Massive energy beams and missiles streaked through space. The aliens returned fire, and several platforms exploded in bright flashes. Admiral Donovan's surviving ships, now joined by Earth's last defensive fleet, engaged the enemy. The Defiant, badly damaged from the Mars battle, still led the charge. Target their lead vessels, Donovan ordered. Remember Dr. Grant's analysis, hit their command ships if you can break through. On the main view screen, Supreme Commander Vrax of the Confederation forces broadcast a message to all Earth channels. The alien's 4 eyes blinked slowly as he spoke. Your defiance is illogical. You cannot win. Surrender now, and we will spare your major cities. President Carpenter, watching from her bunker, turned to her advisors. Are the Dreadnoughts ready? General, Nichols nodded. Operation Black Forge awaits your command, but Dr. Grant recommends waiting until they commit their full force. We can't wait too long, Carpenter said, watching as another orbital defense platform disappeared from the tactical display. Too many people are dying. In Washington, D.C., John Mason hurried through underground tunnels beneath the Pentagon. After escaping Confederation captivity during the Mars evacuation, he carried critical intelligence. "Lieutenant Beck," he called out, spotting her in the busy command center. "I need to see the President." Beck, now promoted to captain, looked up from her console. "Mason, we thought you were dead." "Nearly was," he replied. "But I learned something important while captive. Something about how the Confederation fleet operates." Beck quickly arranged a secure call to the President's bunker. Mason explained what he had discovered. "Their ships are connected through a central command network," he told Carpenter. "It lets them coordinate perfectly, but it also means they all receive the same orders at once." "And if we disrupt that network?" Carpenter asked. "Their entire fleet would be confused, at least for a while," Mason said. "But we'd need to hit all their command ships simultaneously." Above them, the space battle grew worse. The Confederation began systematic bombardment of military bases across Earth. Donovan's fleet fought desperately, but one by one, Earth ships were destroyed or disabled. In the underwater facility beneath the Mariana Trench, Peter Collins watched as engineers made final preparations to the massive Dreadnought. "Main reactor at full power," reported a technician. "Shield grid at 78% capacity." "It will have to do," Collins said, looking at the countdown timer on his tablet. "The President is waiting for the perfect moment." The perfect moment came 3 hours later. The Confederation fleet had destroyed most of Earth's defenses and began positioning for a ground invasion. Supreme Commander Vrax broadcast again. "Your resistance has ended. The Galactic Confederation claims victory over Earth. Prepare for occupation." In orbit, alien ships began celebration rituals, their weapons powering down as they prepared landing craft. President Carpenter looked at General Nichols and nodded once. Nichols pressed a button on his console and spoke 6 words. "Execute Operation Black Forge. Authorization Alpha." Across Earth, hidden systems activated. In the asteroid belt, 6 massive ships powered up, their engines glowing bright against the darkness of space. Beneath the ocean, the 7th and largest Dreadnought rose, water cascading from its enormous hull as it broke the surface. On the bridge of this ship, Captain Diana Reeves settled into the command chair. "Reactor at full power. Weapons online. The Leviathan is ready." Around the world, people watching the skies saw new stars rising, Earth's dreadnoughts moving into position. Each ship was 3 times larger than the biggest Confederation vessel. Their hulls were black and sleek, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. In his flagship, Supreme Commander Vrax received urgent messages from his sensors officers. "Unknown vessels detected. 7 massive ships approaching from multiple vectors." Vrax stared at the readings in disbelief. "Impossible. The humans have no such technology." On the Leviathan, Captain Reeves opened a channel to all Earth forces. "This is Earth Dreadnought 1 to all defense units. The cavalry has arrived. Stand by for counterattack." Admiral Donovan, aboard his crippled flagship, smiled for the first time in months as he saw the massive human ships approach. "Well, I'll be damned. They actually built them." President Carpenter addressed the world. "People of Earth, the real battle begins now." Ed with military teams from nations across Earth. They coordinated the planet's remaining defensive resources: missile systems, fighter squadrons, and orbital platforms. "When they reach Earth," Huang told his international team, "we only need to hold them off for a short time." "How short?" asked a Russian general. Huang checked his watch. "Just long enough for Operation Black Forge to activate." Deep under the ocean and hidden in the asteroid belt, giant ships waited in darkness, their crews ready. The time for secrecy was almost over. The 7 Earth dreadnoughts moved into formation around the planet. Each massive ship dwarfed even the largest Confederation vessels. Their black hulls seemed to absorb light, making them look like moving shadows against the stars. "All dreadnoughts. Report ready, Captain Reeves," said the communications officer on the bridge of the Leviathan. Reeves studied the tactical display. The Confederation fleet had broken their celebration formation and were rushing to defensive positions. Too late. Send to all Dreadnought captains, Reeves ordered. Execute Attack Plan Delta, Target Command, ships first. On the bridge of the Behemoth, Captain Kevin Russell acknowledged the order. His dreadnought moved to engage the eastern flank of the Confederation fleet. Shields at maximum, Russell commanded. Prepare main weapon systems. The Behemoth fired first. A brilliant beam of energy, unlike anything the Confederation had seen, cut through space. Where it touched an alien battlecruiser, the ship simply came apart, its own shields useless. Direct hit, reported Russell's weapons officer. Target destroyed. Across the battlefield, the other dreadnoughts opened fire. Captain Gregory West's ship took out 3 Confederation vessels with a single shot. Captain Lisa Franklin's dreadnought launched fighters that moved faster than alien tracking systems could follow. Captains Samuel Kelly, Michelle Parker, and Albert Cruz positioned their ships to cut off any escape routes. Aboard the Confederation flagship, Supreme Commander Vrax watched in horror as his fleet began to disintegrate. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Scan those human vessels. What weapons are they using?" "Unknown technology, Commander," replied his science officer. "Our sensors indicate some form of graviton manipulation. Their shields operate on frequencies our weapons cannot penetrate." Vrax slammed his forefists down. "All ships concentrate fire on the largest human vessel." The Confederation fleet turned its weapons toward the Leviathan. Hundreds of energy beams struck the dreadnought's shields, which glowed bright blue under the assault. On the Leviathan, Reeves felt her ship shudder. "Shield status?" "Holding. At 62%, her officer replied. "But they're learning our frequency patterns. Shields will fail if they continue this coordinated assault." Reeves opened a channel to Kelly's dreadnought, the Atlas. "Sam, we need cover. Can you draw some of their fire?" "On it, Diana," Kelly replied. The Atlas moved between Leviathan and the main Confederation force, its weapons blazing. But the concentrated alien fire was too much. A section of the Atlas shields failed, and Confederation weapons tore into its hull. "We're hit," Kelly reported as alarms blared around him. "Main reactor damaged. We can hold them off for maybe 2 minutes before we need to withdraw." In the underwater facility, now empty of its dreadnought, Peter Collins worked frantically at a console. Dr. Grant stood beside him, her face tense. "The shield modulation algorithm is ready," Collins said. "Uploading to all dreadnoughts now." Grant watched the data stream. "Will it work?" "It has to," Collins replied. "The dreadnoughts weren't quite ready, but this should let their shields adapt faster than the Confederation weapons can adjust." In orbit, Captain Reeves received the upload. "Engineering, implement the new shield protocols immediately." The Leviathan's shields flickered, then stabilized with a different color, a deeper, richer blue. Alpha 3. The 7 Earth ships moved with surprising grace for their size. Their formation created a net that ensnared the Confederation fleet. With their shields now resistant to alien weapons, the dreadnoughts pressed their advantage. "Launch all fighter squadrons," Russell ordered aboard the Behemoth. Hundreds of small, sleek Earth fighters poured from the dreadnoughts. Led by ace pilot Natalie Foster, they targeted Confederation ships' sensor arrays and weapon systems. "Stay in their blind spots," Foster instructed her pilots. "These big boys can't turn fast enough to track you." On Earth, people watched through telescopes and on video feeds as bright flashes lit up the space around their planet. For the first time in months, they began to hope. The battle around Earth had changed completely. The Confederation fleet, once so confident, now fought desperately against the 7 Earth dreadnoughts. Captain Reeves watched from the command chair of the Leviathan as enemy ships tried to regroup. "They're forming a defensive sphere," she noted. trying to protect their remaining command vessels. Should we pursue? Asked her second-in-command. Yes, Reeves decided. Signal Captain Russell. The Behemoth and Leviathan will attack their formation from opposite sides. The two largest dreadnoughts moved into position, their massive engines glowing as they accelerated. Between them, Earth's remaining conventional ships followed, led by Admiral Donovan's damaged but still fighting Defiant. Never thought I'd see Earth ships this size, Donovan said to his bridge crew. Look at them move. The Behemoth reached attack position first. Captain Russell stood on his bridge, calm as he issued orders. Target their formation center. Fire graviton lances full spread. The weapons officer pressed several controls. From the Behemoth, 6 brilliant beams shot out, each one striking a different Confederation ship. The alien vessels split apart, their hulls peeling open like flower petals. Direct hits on all targets, reported the weapons officer. Enemy formation is breaking up. Inside the Confederation fleet, Supreme Commander Vrax frantically issued orders. Regroup, maintain defensive positions. But fear had spread through his forces. Several ships were already turning away, preparing to flee. Commander, said his tactical officer, our long-range sensors detect more human vessels rising from their planet. Vrax stared at the screen. More dreadnoughts? No, sir. These are their conventional ships. It appears they held back a reserve force. Indeed, from Earth's surface and hidden lunar bases, hundreds of smaller human ships now launched. They weren't nearly as powerful as the dreadnoughts, but against a confused and damaged enemy they could be effective. Captain Franklin's dreadnought Orion moved to support the smaller Earth vessels. All fighters, provide cover for our conventional forces, she ordered. Her fighter squadrons spread out, protecting the smaller ships as they joined the battle. On the Atlas, Captain Kelly assessed the damage to his ship. One section of the huge dreadnought was open to space, sealed off by emergency bulkheads. Reactor containment is holding, his engineer reported, but we've lost 20% of our weapon systems. Kelly nodded grimly. We can still fight. Move us back into formation. The damaged Atlas rejoined the other dreadnoughts, its remaining weapons still more than a match for most Confederation ships. In Earth's command bunker, President Carpenter received updates from the battle. The Confederation fleet is breaking up, General Nichols reported with a smile. Some ships are already jumping out of the system. And Commander Vrax? Carpenter asked. Still fighting. His flagship is heavily protected in the center of their remaining forces. John Mason, who had been studying tactical displays, looked up. Madam President, if we capture Vrax rather than kill him, it could be valuable for negotiating with the Confederation later. Carpenter considered this. A good point. Contact Captain Reeves. On the Leviathan, Reeves received the President's order. Understood. We'll attempt to disable the flagship rather than destroy it. She turned to her tactical officer. Target their engines and weapons only. I want that ship intact. The Leviathan moved toward the center of the remaining Confederation forces, its massive hull absorbing enemy fire without slowing. Earth's other dreadnoughts provided covering fire, creating a path through the alien fleet. Natalie Foster led her fighter squadron alongside the Leviathan. All fighters form up. We'll clear a path through their defensive screen. The small, agile Earth fighters darted between Confederation ships, firing precisely at weapons arrays and sensor systems. Confusion spread through the alien fleet as ship after ship lost the ability to target the approaching dreadnought. Captain, reported the Leviathan's sensor officer, we have a clear shot at Vrax's flagship. Reeves nodded. Target engines and weapons. Fire when ready. The Leviathan fired a precisely calibrated shot that struck the Confederation flagship's propulsion systems. The massive alien vessel went dark for a moment, then emergency lights flickered on. It drifted helplessly, its weapons silent. Target disabled, confirmed the weapons officer. Reeves opened a channel to Earth. Leviathan to command. Enemy flagship disabled, awaiting further orders. Throughout the solar system, The remains of the once mighty Confederation fleet were in full retreat. After months of fear and desperate fighting, humanity had won its first major victory. President Carpenter turned to Mason, who had joined her in the command bunker. "How long have we been building these ships?" 20 years, Mason replied. "Ever, since we detected the first alien signals. We knew we might not be alone, so we prepared for the worst while hoping for the best." Carpenter nodded. "It seems that preparation is paying off." In space, the tide of battle had turned completely. 1/3 of the Confederation fleet was already destroyed, and more ships were falling by the minute. 3 days after the Battle of Earth, President Carpenter stood in the White House Rose Garden. Behind her stood Captain Reeves and the other Dreadnought captains in formal uniforms. Military leaders and government officials filled the space. News cameras broadcast worldwide. "Today we begin a new chapter," Carpenter said. "We have defended our home. Now we must secure our future." She announced her decision. Earth would not simply wait for another Confederation attack. The Dreadnoughts would lead a force into Confederation space to ensure lasting peace. "This is not revenge," she emphasized. "This is security. We will offer fair terms, but we will speak from a position of strength." John Mason would join the mission as diplomatic advisor. His experience with the Confederation made him valuable. Peter Collins and Dr. Grant would also go, to manage the advanced technology of the Dreadnoughts. The Earth fleet departed 2 weeks later. 6 Dreadnoughts formed the core, with the damaged Atlas remaining behind to protect Earth. Captain Kelly was not happy about staying behind, but his ship needed extensive repairs. Captain Reeves led the fleet from the Leviathan. As they passed Mars, she ordered a moment of silence for those lost in the earlier battles. Then the massive ships accelerated toward the edge of the solar system. "Course set for the Tau Ceti system," reported the navigation officer. "Intelligence indicates a major Confederation communications hub there." Reeves nodded. "All ships prepare for faster-than-light jump." The Dreadnoughts' advanced engines activated, creating controlled wormholes that pulled the ships through space far faster than the Confederation thought possible. In the Tau Ceti system, the Earth fleet found a large space station orbiting the 4th planet. Captain Franklin's Orion led the approach. "Scan the station," Franklin ordered. "I want to know what we're dealing with." "Minimal weapons, Captain," her sensor officer reported. "Primarily a communications facility. Detecting 12 Confederation ships in defensive positions." Franklin opened a channel to Reeves. "Recommend we capture rather than destroy. This could give us valuable intelligence." "Agreed," Reeves replied. "Your ship will lead. Disable their defenses but preserve the station's systems." The Orion moved forward, joined by Behemoth and Colossus. The other Dreadnoughts stayed back, ready if needed. The 12 Confederation defenders, seeing the massive Earth ships, immediately broadcast surrender signals. "That was easy," Franklin said with surprise. When Earth forces boarded the station, they discovered something unexpected. Many of the Confederation species seemed relieved rather than angry about their defeat. An alien communications officer named Ethelon of the primary species requested to speak with Earth's leaders. Mason met with him in a secure room on the station. "The Tyvari Empire does not speak for all Confederation members," Ethelon explained through a translator. "Many of us were forced to join their war against Earth." Mason listened carefully. "Are you saying some Confederation species would ally with humans?" "Yes," Ethelon replied. "The Tyvari told us humans were violent monsters who would destroy any alien species they encountered. But seeing your restraint in battle and your treatment of prisoners proves otherwise." This information changed everything. Mason immediately contacted Captain Reeves and President Carpenter. After lengthy discussions, a new plan formed. Rather than fighting through Confederation space, Earth would seek allies among disaffected species. Ethelon helped identify sympathetic factions. Soon, other Confederation ships began defecting to the Earth fleet. Captain Russell's Behemoth led a task force to meet with representatives of 7 species who sought to break from Tyvari control. "The Confederation is fracturing." "Russell, reported to Reeves after one such meeting. With our help, several species are declaring independence from Tyvari rule. On the Leviathan, Mason worked long hours with Collins and Grant, developing plans for a reformed Galactic Alliance. His experience as a diplomat was proving valuable. If we build trust with enough species, Mason told Reeves, we might isolate the Tyvari without fighting a prolonged war. The 3 Earth Dreadnoughts emerged from faster-than-light travel near Tavares. The blue-green planet looked peaceful from space, but orbital stations bristled with weapons. A defensive fleet of 60 ships moved to intercept the human vessels. Incoming transmission from the Tyvari High Command, reported the communications officer on the Leviathan. Captain Reeves nodded. On screen, Admiral Zakathar appeared, his 4 arms crossed in what humans now recognized as a gesture of superiority. So the primitive species has found its way to our home. You should not have come this far. We're not here to destroy, Reeves replied calmly. We're here to end a war you started. By threatening our homeworld, Zakathar's voice rose. Your dreadnoughts are powerful, but even they cannot defeat our entire defense network. John Mason stepped into view beside Reeves. We don't need to defeat it, Admiral. Look around you. Your empire is already falling. On cue, Captain Russell's behemoth transmitted data to the Tyvari planet. News of rebellions throughout the Confederation, images of former subject species declaring independence, and footage of Confederation ships now flying alongside Earth vessels. Your lies about humanity have been exposed, Mason continued. The species you forced into your Confederation now know the truth. Zakathar's face darkened with anger. Irrelevant. The Tyvari built this Confederation and we will maintain it. All ships destroy the human vessels. The Tyvari fleet moved forward, weapons charging. But then something unexpected happened. 12 ships in their formation changed course, moving, to position themselves between the Earth Dreadnoughts and the rest of the Tyvari fleet. Captain, said the Leviathan's sensor officer, those ships are broadcasting friendly codes. They're Confederation vessels from other species stationed at Tyvaris. Commander Ethlon's voice came through the communication system. Earth vessels, this is the Free Confederation Alliance. We will stand with you against Tyvari oppression. More. Ships broke formation from the Tyvari fleet. 15, then 20, then over 30. Admiral Zakathar's orders became increasingly desperate as he watched his forces crumble without a shot being fired. Captain Russell on the Behemoth opened a channel to all ships in the system. This conflict can end peacefully. The Tyvari Empire can join a new galactic alliance as equals, not rulers. On the Colossus, Captain Cruz directed precise weapons fire that disabled the main Tyvari defense stations without destroying them. The show of restraint and power made its point clearly. Back on the Leviathan, Mason worked with Ethelon to draft terms for a new peace agreement. The document would dissolve the Confederation and establish a galactic alliance where all species had equal representation. Shall we include special provisions for Earth? Ethelon asked. Mason shook his head. No, we want true equality, not to replace one empire with another. The Tyvari resistance collapsed within hours. Moderate leaders in their government seized control from the military hardliners. Admiral Zakathar was removed from power. The new Tyvari leadership requested peace talks. 1 week later, representatives from 22 species gathered aboard the Leviathan for the signing of the Galactic Alliance Charter. The massive dreadnought, once built for war, now served as a place of peace. President Carpenter addressed the gathering by video link from Earth. Today marks a new beginning for all our peoples, not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners, exploring the stars together. Captain Reeves stood on her observation deck later that evening, watching ships from many worlds moving peacefully around her dreadnought. Peter Collins joined her, looking tired but satisfied. Did you ever imagine this outcome when you were building these ships in secret? Reeves asked him. Collins shook his head. We built them hoping they would never be needed. Then we used them, in battle, fearing it would never end. Now look at us, hosting a peace conference. Reeves smiled. The Dreadnoughts did their job. They showed our strength when needed, but also our restraint. Back on Earth, construction had already begun on new ships. Not weapons of war, but vessels of exploration. The first would be named Alliance, crewed by humans and members of other species. In the darkness of space, Captain Reeves looked out at the stars that were no longer just points of light but homes of new friends and allies. Earth had secured its place in the galaxy, not through conquest but by standing firm when threatened and offering peace from a position of strength. The galactic fleet had claimed victory, then Earth's dreadnoughts had arrived. And the universe would never be the same. Captain Reeves nodded thoughtfully. From defenders to peacekeepers in less than a month. Not what I expected when we launched the Dreadnoughts. Reports from deeper in Confederation space indicated growing unrest. The Tivari government tried to suppress news of their defeat at Earth, but word spread through secret channels. 3 Dreadnoughts, Behemoth, Colossus, and Leviathan, prepared to push toward Tivaris, the heart of the Empire. Not as conquerors, but as liberators supporting a growing rebellion. Set course for the Tivari homeworld, Reeves ordered. Let's finish this.